Hi, David Odell here with Odell Complete Concrete. We're going to be removing and replacing this garage floor. And you can see why they want to replace it. It's got a big crack down the middle, and it's actually heaved in the center here, which affects the way the garage door closes, so it doesn't come down perfectly flat, the garage door, because of the crown in the garage floor. So we're going to remove it all, and then we're going to put it back in, and we'll try to figure out what actually caused it to do this. When we do the removal, we'll figure out why it cracked and why it's settling and heaving. Now this water heater here is sitting on a framed base, 2x4s and a plywood, and that's going to stay in there. It also has a little post bollard, which is a little crash pipe, so cars don't run into the water heater, which is a good idea in a garage. Here I am with the 14-inch steel cutoff saw, putting a little water on there. It has a water adapter, but this was just easier and quicker, just run the hose real quick. We're going to try to use as little water as possible. That way when we start breaking out, we won't have a big mess with water splattering on the drywall and stuff like that. We could wet vac that water up also, but it also acts as a dust control. When I go in here with the hammer, as you see here, I've got the breaker attachment that goes on this vermeer, and that's going to create some dust when I start pounding on that concrete. So that water that we had, I'm going to spread that out over the floor, as you can see here, and that'll minimize some of the dust that is coming up off of this hammer. Also, I have a fan running in the garage blowing the dust out the main door. The way I like to start breaking this concrete out is I'm just going to utilize the existing cracks, because I know it's already weakened there. So I'll go ahead and break all along that crack and give it a nice little gap, some space, so this concrete's not bound in there between the foundation stem wall. And that way when I can start shifting and moving the concrete around in big chunks after I put some zip this garage floor up a little bit. I'll go all the way around the edge, go through the existing cracks, and then I can switch to the bucket and just start lifting slabs up. We also have a step here, and that was poured monolithically with the actual floor, so it's really thick here, and then it does have a little rebar in there, but it was no problem for this breaker. So it's about 10 inches thick right here, as you've got the depth of the slab plus the 6-inch rise in the step. So we'll be putting a new step in place of this one. If the step had been poured separately with, say, the foundation of the house, then we could have left that. So this concrete was really thick. It was a good 4 inches, maybe even almost 5 in some areas. So what I think happened in this situation, why it cracked and it heaved in the center, is because when they backfilled against the foundation, the way that they're done is they're overdug for the foundation itself to get your form boards in. When they stripped and backfilled along the foundation, that wasn't compacted very well, so it actually settled on the edges. It didn't really come up in the middle, it just went down on both sides along the foundation, because of the process, you know, in forming up a foundation of a house. Overdug, then backfilled after the forms come out, and that didn't get compacted, and it settled over the years. Also, you know, another factor is there's no steel reinforcement in here, so we'll be adding some steel reinforcement. I'm going to use number 3 rebar, that's 3/8 diameter. I'm going to put it on 2-foot centers. Also, I'm going to be adding some fiber mesh to the mix, And then I'm going to be laying a vapor barrier down on this floor. So those are the things that it didn't have. So we're going to do it a little differently. So a lot of the remnants of the breakout I actually just left here on the dirt, and then I used a plate compactor and I drove it into the ground so it was perfectly flat. And then we'll lay some 6mm visqueen as you see here. Drop the steel on there, 2-foot centers, tie it all up, and you notice this is 22 feet by 19 feet. So my bars are short 2 foot in the one direction and 1 foot long in the other direction. So what I did was I staggered them. Rather than putting all my shorties at one end, I actually alternated every other one full length. There's the steps set up there. Usually I like to use steel stakes, to set these up, because that leaves a smaller hole when I go to strip it and finish it. But I didn't have any on board, so I just went ahead and used some wood. Since I've only got about 3 or 4 in there anyway, I was able to get by with it. There's my screed board down the middle, just riding on some 16-penny duplex in a wood stake. In some areas the ground is not that great, so you're not going to be able to use wood stakes at all. You have to use steel, and then a different fastening system for overhead screed. There's your expansion foam there, and I've attached that with some 3M spray-on adhesive. Also, what I did with that expansion foam, which is kind of crucial, is that when I actually glued it on there, I actually ran a string line from end to end on that foam, because I wanted that perfectly straight across there, regardless of what the driveway was doing. I was more interested in what the garage is going to be doing, because that's the area we're working on. So I want that garage door to come down flat. That's why I pull a string line, glue the foam on perfectly straight, and then I can finish to that, and I know that the garage door is going to come down nice and flush. Well, I sprayed some oil on that form as well in that step. That motor oil I use is right out of my truck. It's Mobil 1, full synthetic, and then I just diluted a little bit with some diesel or gas just to get it to blow through my sprayer nice and smoothly. That's my form oil basically. Right now I'm getting ready to crawl up the truck and drop some fiber in. There's the fiber mesh. And that's a 2-pound bag there. So the fiber is really not a structural type reinforcement. It's mostly just for your shrinkers, but in combination with the steel, which is more of your structural aspect of the concrete, and then you've got your fiber for your shrinkage. You've got a nice little combination that's working both ends. This particular mix is a 4,000 psi, and since it's pea gravel, that's probably about a 7.5 sack. And that equates to 94-pound bags of cement. 7.5 of those per cubic yard get you the 4,000 psi. Now, if that was big rock, you could pull it off with probably 6.5 sack, and get your 4,000 psi. Now, what I'm doing here is I'm bull floating it perpendicular to the way the rod was running. And that assures you that you're going to get a really flat surface. Unfortunately, I won't be able to do that on the other side of this garage, because I would have to stand in the concrete that I've already bull floated to do so. So one side's going to be really flat, and the other side we're just going to hope we get lucky. See, those stakes on the top on a diagonal is really holding the end boards from moving, because I have no kickers there, just an upright. That's an aluminum 2x4 there. That's what I'm using to screed with. That's a 10-foot one. That's a 4-foot wide wood bull float. And it's got a little rocker arm on there. You can twist it and unlock it at any angle you'd like. Oh, we came up short on this. I mean, we had 6.5 yards on this little item here. It's 22 by 19. We came up short, probably about a 1/4 yard. So instead of getting another truckload out here, what I did is I went down to Home Depot, picked up 15 60-pound bags of Quikrete, and with every 3 bags I mixed, I threw 2 shovels of powder cement in there. And in order for this, normally if you do that, you're going to have you're going to have discoloration because it's 2 different concretes. So in this situation, what we did was we drug a lot of this concrete from the first truck back and made a mountain. Then we put the new concrete that we had hand mixed on the bottom, and then we pulled over the excess concrete from the first truck over the top of that. That way we're going to have a uniform cure out here, and everything's going to be the same color. Even though it's just a gray natural, you can still get some variations in the shades when you're mixing different types of concretes where you don't really know where they came from. Not the same, pit where they got the gravel, sand, cement, most likely. So you're going to have variations in color and shades. So that's how you cure it. You put the other batch underneath and then the good stuff over the top. As you can see here, you can't see the difference, and we'll show that too as we come back here the following day to do some saw cutting. It's still all the same color. So he got out there a little early on this because he just wanted to get those stakes out and shape up this step. Now this is the first lay down. And then you go over it again a couple more times as it starts to harden up to really get your final product. Even though we did pour on this on plastic, there's really not a whole lot of bleed water coming up, no standing bleed water, and that's due to the high cement and high PSI. I'm gonna, some people will wet cut these and you'll get a wet joint cut in the concrete the day of the pour, but in this case I really prefer saw cuts, especially since it's in a garage, because it's a narrow 1/8 inch wide gap with no radius, so rolling things around are much easier, and they don't hold as much dirt, oil, grease, so you don't get a lot of debris in there. Now I'm just checking it down here at the garage door to make sure that we came out nice and flush. And I noticed we were a little bit high down along this foam. So I'm going to cut it. And at the same time I'm cutting it, I am pulling some bleed water off the top. And that's the Milwaukee 6-foot level designed for rotting concrete and checking your level at the same time. I'm about due for a new one. There's that Milwaukee radio that I'm going to be giving away right there. As you can see it in the background, we got the tunes going right now on the job. So because we left that slab underneath that water heater, that creates a whole nother challenge in controlling the cracks off of that slab. Typically you'd want your saw cut centered in this garage in each direction, but because we have that water heater slab still there, we're going to be off center on the cuts because it's going to want to crack off of that slab because that's the narrowest point of the area. So we're going to cut it off of that that protruding slab existing. And that'll be our crack control. Because we had that hand batch on this one end right here, I moved the fan over here just to kind of blow dry it a little bit because we were an hour, maybe 45 to an hour getting that place, so it's going to dry a little bit slower than the rest. Even though the top 2 inches is the first pour, still have an earlier pour underneath it. Hi, David Odell here with Odell Complete Concrete. We're just wrapping up this garage floor, and we want to introduce the Milwaukee AM/FM radio. We're going to give it away to everyone that likes, subscribes, and shares. And you have to comment, I want the Milwaukee radio and charger. Let's listen to the sound of this thing now. It's nice, it's clear and crisp. I've got it hooked up to my phone right now. Got nice bass, the whole package here. There it is. Juan just knocked it out, made it look easy. Now all we have to do here is saw cut the control joints in here, and we'll be using the walk behind Medusa from Skill Saw. I'm using blue chalk because I don't, the red chalk will actually permanently stain the concrete, so we're going to go with the blue chalk. That way it's easy to rinse off. I connected the vacuum up to the saw, and it was picking up, I mean, like 99% of the dust. There was really no cleanup to do. Now here's where I got kind of creative on the crack control with that water heater pad still being in there. I did lay some bars 45-degree angle to those corners coming off the existing, but you're still going to crack there regardless. Now I'm just going to pressure wash it, and that gives me a chance to see how good and how flat it really was. See if all the water drains out, and it cleans it at the same time. No water puddles at all. It drained beautifully. We've only got about 1% soap in this thing. And you can see the lighter areas where it's starting to cure out a little quicker than other areas. So that cuts on an angle, but it hit a couple key points of where it may crack. Then that other cuts on the opposite side of that existing slab. So I think we're going to be good to go here, and without any problems. Anyway, thank you for watching the videos, and if you like these type of videos, make sure to subscribe, hit the bell so you get notified when I upload, and then that way you won't miss the latest and greatest.